In this video, we are going to look at how does pivot table works. I'll tell you a few tricks which you can have up your sleeve whenever you're working with pivot tables. In order to take you through the workings of pivot table, I have created a set of data over here. And we are going to use this data to see how various aspects of pivot table works. In this video, we are going to focus more on the basics of pivot table. I am going to create another video which is going to talk about more advanced features of pivot table. So let's just focus on basics of pivot table. To create a pivot table, the first thing which we need to do is we need to go and click on insert and then click this button called pivot table. There is a shortcut available on Windows laptop which is Alt D P, and it will bring you to the same box which is over here. Now when you click this, it automatically selects where there is data. However, you can override the data which has been selected automatically by Excel. I generally prefer to select the entire column like this. Now, disadvantage of selecting like this is that it will end up selecting blank rows as well. However, the advantage is that if you want to expand your database into the blank rows, then you don't need to come back and change the data source again. You can just refresh the pivot table and pivot table will automatically pick up the new data inputted. Then it will ask you whether you want the pivot table to be placed in the new worksheet or existing worksheet. If you select existing worksheet, then you will have to select the area where you want your pivot table to be. I would always recommend to select new worksheet because then it makes it easier for you to maneuver through different worksheets. Having said that, now since we have selected the data source and new worksheet, we are going to click OK. And a box will open up with pivot table fields on the right hand side. There are 4 sections under pivot table which we need to fill it up to basically create a pivot table. Let's look at each of those fields. The first thing which I'm going to do is I'm going to select compulsory optional. Now if I just click over here, then it automatically goes under values. However, I want this to be under filters. So I'm going to just drag it back to the filter. Let's say I want to know by each product and services what's my total cost and revenue. So I'm going to come to a field called products and services and make it as rows. Let's say in column, I want to know by internal cost as well as by third party cost, what's my total cost and revenue. So I'm going to select internal, INT stands for internal, under column. And then I'm going to select my total cost over here and I'm going to select total revenue over here. Now, as you can see, as soon as I put under values, it automatically selected sum. Sometimes you would notice that it might select count. So what you need to do is if you click on this I button, it will actually give you all the options of what you really want to do. Whether you want to count, average, maximize, minimum, product, whatever it is, there are options available over here. And if you want to format the numbers as well, if you click the number button, then you can go and format the numbers. For example, if I want 0 decimal places, I want 1000 separator and I want the negative number to appear in red. So I can just do that and say OK and then click OK again. I can do this again for the next one where sum is automatically selected. I can go to numbers and format the numbers the way I want the numbers to be formatted as well and then click OK. And then you can close this pivot table field and you can bring it back as well as when you need. Now, from formatting perspective, there is another way to format the number. After you have created the pivot table, you can select the columns which you want to format. And then you can go and format the numbers as well by pressing Ctrl 1. And it will open up the same box. And over here, you can format all the cells within the pivot table at one go, rather than doing it for each and every field. So I'm going to just cancel it now and come back over here. Now, as you can see, as I was telling you, there is a blank over here because it has selected the rows where there is no data. You can easily hide that blank by pressing Ctrl-. Similarly, if you want all the zeros to be hidden as well, you can just select the zero and you can say control minus and it will get hidden. Then the table becomes shorter and you know that for each product, for internal, this is the total cost and revenue. For services, for third party, this is the cost and revenue, and for internal cost and revenue is this much. And this gives you the total numbers. Now, if I want to know this only for my compulsory item, then what I'm going to do is first unselect everything, then just select compulsory and it will give me the compulsory value. If I want to know only for optional, then untick compulsory, tick optional, and you're going to get it for optional. You can also copy this entire pivot table again over here. And it will automatically select all the data which has been selected in the top table. Over here, if you want to know only compulsory, then you can just say compulsory and you will get the values over here. Now let's say you want to format your pivot table. So you can go to design, you can select any design you want. For example, I want this design, so I can select this design. Now let's look at another feature. For example, we want to add a field to this pivot table. So what we are going to do is right click and say show field list. Under field list for product, I want to add whether it is PT, net or others. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this and put it over here. Now as you can see, I can see product and then say others and then product total, which is a subtotal of product. Then for services also I can see net, others, services total. Now you can see that it is appearing below the main heading. If you want to change this, you can change this as well. You can go to pivot table analysis, select options and again click on options. Under display in option, you have a classic pivot table layout. If I click on that and press OK, see automatically what happens is the values which were appearing below product, instead of row, that becomes one column separately. And it gives you a better look for the pivot table. Now it's your personal choice how you want to basically manage the pivot table, but then this is a better display in my mind. Now, if you have subtotal like this, you can change this one as well. So you need to go to pivot design, select subtotal, just say don't show subtotals and those will disappear. Similarly, if you want to see all the subtotals, you can say subtotals at the bottom. Similarly, you can go and select show all subtotals at top of the group as well. It's up to you how you want to see it. Similarly, for grand total as well, you can say off and on in whichever way you want to be. Now, if you want to name the pivot table, you can put a name as well over here. For example, I want to say this as revenue cost pivot. So I can change the name and it will basically give me a name for the pivot table as well. Now let's do one thing. Let's go to the last row over here and maybe add a new data point over here. So first thing which I'm going to do is I'm going to freeze this column so that I can see what I'm inputting over here. So I'm going to just click on freeze panes and I get a freeze pane. So for example, I'm going to put over here as, let's say optional. Optional, I don't need to put all of these things right now. I'm just going to put the one which we are going to need. Let's say this is a third party. We did select this one. So let's say this is others. We said, let's say this is product. And we are going to just input some value for cost. This is 100,000 and let's say it is 200,000. And now if we come back over here, in fact under product there was no net, so let me make it net so that we can see that value separately. So if we come here now and select refresh and then select optional, because we did select optional, you would be able to see this net over here. Now the question which may arise is, for row we have selected all the columns so new rows can get added. What about column? Let's say you add a new column over here which is called as revenue new, and I'll just link this one with this value so that we don't have to create a new value. Then what do? Because now if you refresh, that column will not get selected no matter what you do. So if I go to the field list and if I want to search for that, see, it doesn't appear over here. So if you're adding something which is beyond the data source which was selected, then what you need to do is you need to go to pivot table analyze, change data source. Over here you need to add one more column, and that column is AW. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just type AW over here and say OK. And now if I come to the pivot table field, I would be able to see revenue new, and if I want to select that revenue new over here, I should be able to select revenue new and it will appear over here. So these are some of the very basic features of pivot table. In the next video, I am going to discuss about some more real advanced feature of pivot table. So stay tuned and look for my next video. If you want to know more about Excel skills, do visit my website which is www.starperformers.net, or subscribe to my channel which has many more videos on Excel. If you like this video, do press the like button and also press the bell button so that you get notification of all the new videos. Till then, enjoy learning Excel.